We got one viewer, we got one viewer, we got one viewer, we got one viewer, 5 viewers, oh my god, 11 viewers, oh my god. I guess it stopped at 11. Oh no, now it's 17. Well, that number just keeps going up. Woo! It's up. It's a Monday. Monday. It's a Monday. Oh, I gotta switch the scene. What's up, everybody? What's happening? It's a lovely, lovely Monday out there. Just looking outside. The birds are chirping. Well, there's not very many birds left. It's cold outside, guys. Guys and girls and ladies and gentlemen and all the people that are around in the world, wherever you are, whatever you're doing out there. Glad to see you on this Monday. Unless it's not Monday where you are, because that happens sometimes. Sometimes it's Tuesday where you're at. Because you'd be wilding out. Just be out there getting wild. Why is this thing running weird over here? All right, we'll figure that out. But it is good to be here. I'm glad to be here on a Monday. Like I said, it's sunny out. Cold. Cold and sunny out here in Western Washington where I live. If you don't know where Western Washington is, if I said Seattle, you'd probably know. I don't live in Seattle anymore. I used to for many, many years, but alas, we got priced out from the market, and my collar on my shirt's doing something totally absurd, so let me fix that. Well, yeah, we got priced out of that market. We couldn't live there anymore. Couldn't keep doing that. Couldn't buy a house out there. It was far too expensive to buy a home. So we moved to lovely Tacoma, Washington, where we live now. In our bright, sunny, shiny Monday, having a good time out here, and yeah, no real complaints. Bit of a long weekend here. Those of you that follow the show know that the sickness has been brutal here. I've got it a couple of times. Vicky's got it a couple of times. The baby's got it a couple of times. She's right up there in the corner. There she is. I'll move her right over here by my weird painting. See that painting back there? That's a weird painting of me. Making a weird face. Getting ready for Halloween, probably. I think that's what's going on there, right? Yeah, so the sickness has been going on. I still have a weird cough, so apologies to anybody with like their headphones on or whatever. If I suddenly start coughing, I'll do my best to not cough directly into the mic. I need a cough button. Someday I'll have an actual studio and have a cough button. But I did burn my arm this weekend. Did anybody burn their arm this weekend? I burned mine. And I got this burn scar down here. It's kind of gross. But let's address some of the early chat. Who was first to the chat? Robert the Butcher, Jim Smith, and Sopaloco55. There we go. Those were our first to the chats today. Good to see you. I don't see any questions in the initial part, right? Nope. But I do see some super chats from Robert the Butcher, a $5 and a $10. Thank you very much, Robert. Always super supportive of the show and the channel and the stuff that we're trying to do here. As you guys know, I'm trying to get over the hump of being able to start doing more and more and better, produced content for you guys. I've been kind of stacking videos and kind of getting things ready for the holiday season, as it were. And all your guys' support goes directly towards doing more of that. So we do have a few things on the docket coming up. We have a trip to Vivarium in the Netherlands, so I'll be heading all the way out to the Netherlands in a couple weeks, just a couple weeks from now. So anybody in Europe, if you want to go out to Vivarium, or if you're in the U.S. and you want to go out to Vivarium, I will be there. I will be there with Johan and a couple other people, and we'll be generally having a good time documenting that convention, documenting like a European convention that is legitimately for the fans and hobbyists and stuff like that. I have gone out and, you know, I've gone to Interzoo in Europe. Interzoo is a gigantic convention, but it's more for store owners, brand ambassadors, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's really not, it's not a convention that is, you know, for the fans per se. So it's more like new products and things that could be a new product and people kind of making deals. And, you know, I think if I go to Interzoo again, which that thing is only every 2 years, that's how gigantic it is. I think it takes 2 years to like build up enough steam to get 100,000 people in and out of the doors there. It's gigantic. I'm not even kidding you guys. It's huge. I think they said there's an average of 30,000 people that go in and out of it each day. And I think it was 4 days long, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's only 3. But it was long, and it was definitely industry heavy, because you have to have some kind of business. You can't just be whoever off the street necessarily. So it was kind of interesting, but this would be my first documenting of a real fan-oriented convention in Europe. So pretty excited for that. So that's one thing that's going on. I do have some other environmental type video projects that are in the works that I'll kind of be announcing some of that along the line later on. You know, I don't necessarily want to spoil it and then, you know, and then people be like, oh man, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be because you've been hearing about it for weeks and months, you know. So, but we have some of that stuff coming along. But something I want to mention here at the beginning of the show, as people have asked me over the years, pretty consistently, how has fish keeping, plant keeping, you know, as you guys know, I'm more plant-centric guy. I'm growing plants all the time. That's kind of what I like to do. How has that contributed to my sobriety? Because today, oh, I don't know my calendar. Where are we at? Where are we at over here, calendar? I used to be able to keep track, but it's just the number's getting so large now. We're at 1,980 days, 1980. We're coming up on 2,000 days if I manage to maintain over the next 20 days. I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched, as they say. But we are coming up on that, which is cool. And people have consistently asked me, you know, what is the fish keeping hobby? What is the plant keeping hobby? Because I'm a plant centric guy. I normally keep my fish as an accent to the ecosystem. I'm more focused on the growing of plants and stuff like that. So I guess maybe if I put air quotes around it, it's more like a farming hobby than necessarily, you know, constantly obsessing over fish, which I used to do in the past, but now I don't do a lot of breeding projects. I don't do a lot of that kind of stuff these days, other than the breeding that I do now is just essentially, you know, setting up the environment that is good for the fish, and the fish just end up breeding in there. If that hopefully kind of clear some things up for people. I don't have a bunch of tiny breeding tanks, and I leave that kind of stuff up to like Bentley, who's constantly breeding rainbows and all that kind of stuff. I'm not necessarily a fish breeder guy, even though I have done a bunch of it in the past. It's not necessarily my that's not my focus. My focus is growing and propagating plants and setting up those ecosystems and putting those things into place. Now, how does that relate to environmental concerns? How does that relate to any of the environmental type videos that I will be working on? You guys know that I did my garden vlogs last year, and I think that those went fairly well. I think we're going to do more garden vlogs in the future. It didn't work out great to be able to even shoot those and film those this year because, well, I got to get my arrow for this. Namely because of, oh no, my arrow's going the wrong way. I gotta make it turn, but that's not easy to do. Let's see, we gotta turn it around, and then we gotta make it go this way. There we go. Now it's making sense because of this little baby up here. Let me move her towards the arrow. How about that? Because we were farming this little baby right here, was definitely occupying a lot of the garden vlog time that we normally would have done. We realistically, with an infant, it just wasn't working out very well to be able to like film the garden vlogs and still have an infant, because it kind of takes the two of us. And she does take a nap during the day, but seems like almost every time that we have an opportunity to make a garden vlog, it's like we have more pressing home stuff to do. Like, you know, we gotta make sure some laundry's done, or maybe we gotta clean this or move that around. You know, it just seems like there's other chores that we're having to do to be able to like shoot that video. But we'll probably do more garden vlogs next year. But the reason that I bring that up is that what it means to me in my sobriety is, if you guys know anything about the 12-step program, whether it's AA or NA or any of the other programs out there like Smart Recovery or any of that kind of stuff, it's all about, you know, getting through your previous trauma, you know, of being a young person growing up. There's more often than not some kind of trauma that is lingering that has led people down the road of alcoholism, drug addiction, you know, all that collectively is normally because the human brain is sort of focused on some kind of trauma and not being able to move past that. That's what the 12-step program is about, realistically. If you were to boil it down, you know, a lot of people out there are like, oh, it's all about, you know, religion or whatever, because the meetings are held in a church basement. The whole reason that those meetings are held in a church basement is because it's normally on a night or a morning that the church isn't doing anything to make money. And they're like, yeah, oh, you guys are like helping people out for sobriety, so it's $10 a meeting we'll charge you to be here, or whatever. It's normally like that friendship of like, oh, you guys are doing a community thing, okay, you guys are normally you guys are really respectful of the space, blah blah blah. Like, that's just that's the reason that it's in a church basement. You know, it's not because of there's no religion in it. But part of working through that trauma is some type of meditative practice that can overall become a benefit to your day-to-day life. You could traditionally meditate by, you know, nowadays there's so many like apps and things that you can find to get coached on meditation, which is I think is important for pretty much anybody to do. But, you know, for me, my meditative practice is 20, 30 minutes a day, working with the plants, working with my aquarium, finding out what's going on over here. Maybe my water quality is a little bit off. I'm trying to bring this up. Maybe I'm gonna lower fertilizer over here. Oh, I'm gonna test over here. Oh my gosh, I've got nitrite. Why do I have nitrite? What's going on? Is my cycle, is my aquarium not cycle? What's going on here? You know, so that for me is often occupies a lot of my meditative practice. You know, trimming plants, replanting things, moving rocks around, aquascaping, that kind of stuff, just comes out as my regular meditative practice that I work on a regular basis. And that has just kind of combined. So instead of just sitting and working on my breathing and that kind of stuff, I've sort of transmogrified my meditative practice into actually doing something. A good meditative practice that I used to do was, you know, hiking or going for walks and that kind of stuff. Once again, now with a baby, I can't just be, you know, rolling out to go, ramble around in the woods when it's pouring down rain and cold outside, and I can't just leave Olivia here by herself. So that kind of stuff has gone by the wayside, but that will be coming back because now she's getting old enough to actually take out into the rain and cold and that kind of stuff. We got her some new boots via Amazon Prime. I didn't even know that they were going to come because Vicky Toria ordered them. What if I turn my mic around all weird? How about that? There. Vicky Toria ordered some little boots for her. It's so cute because, she has a jacket with a hood and little boots and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be able to take her out there and do a lot more of that as time goes on. Now, why do I think that even if you're not sober or you are sober, how does this relate to you as a person out there? Now, I'm American, so I'm often talking to Americans, but we are talking to people in the world. But I will talk about my personal experience with knowing a lot of what I guess would be more, first world type people. I do know a lot of people from the third world and that kind of stuff, but I guess right now I'm kind of specifically talking to the first world people who maybe don't have to, in their day-to-day life, have necessarily an appreciation or a base knowledge about, where their food comes from, how their food comes from, how it's produced, how ecology works, what is a realistic timeline, because if you were to go to a store, right, and you go buy a bag of, let's say you go buy a 40-pound bag of potatoes, a box. It normally comes in a box when it's 40 pounds. But we go buy a 40-pound box of potatoes, and it's $18, right? You're like, it's like, oh, $17.99. Oh, man, these potatoes went up by $1. I'm only going to get the 40-pounder, come home with those potatoes, and most people don't have just a working knowledge of how long it takes to grow potatoes, for instance, right? I mean, potatoes might not be the best example, but I'm pretty sure most people at some point in time have bought potatoes and started to realize exactly how cheap they are. Now, Vicky and I, we actually grew potatoes this year. I think we got about 10 pounds of potatoes. It took us about 3 months to make 10 pounds of tomatoes. Or potatoes, sorry. The tomatoes were gigantic. We had tons of tomatoes all over the place. I think next year we're only going to do 3 plants or something. We halved the amount of tomatoes we did from last year, and we have an abundance of tomatoes all over the place. But potatoes, we came up with about 10 pounds of potatoes. Took us about 3 months to do it, and a 10-pound bag of potatoes at the store is like $5.99, $6.99, right? So, if you start to turn that around and kind of go, oh, well, a 10-pound bag of tomatoes takes 3 months to grow and it's only $6. Why don't I just go to work and make $6 and I'll just go buy a bag of potatoes, right? But we don't necessarily, as people, want to be just completely outside knowing how farming works, how ecology works, what's the evolution of small farms and all that kind of stuff in the future. And I've spoken about this quite a bit recently. That and I think one of the candidates that's running for president as a Democratic candidate, Andrew Yang. He's the guy that everybody's been talking about. It's like, he's giving away $1,000 a month, which is inaccurate. That's not what he's necessarily doing. What they're going to do is just strip away all of the social programs and then just give you the $1,000 a month instead of, being able to get medical assistance for your bills or WIC or housing assistance or any of Section 8, any of that kind of stuff. They're just going to strip all that away and just give you the money instead, which, hey, I'm not opposed to the universal income idea, but It seems kind of fruitless, and I don't know. It just seems like a fruitless thing because you start to turn everybody into an individual buyer, right, of everything that they need to buy. I don't know. That just doesn't seem like a great idea to me. I don't know how I got onto this weird tangent. Try to rope it back together. Maybe I'll go back and listen to the show and see what happened. I don't know how I got over there. But, hold on. How did I get over to Andrew Yang from what I was talking about? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I got over there. The train went off the tracks, guys. I didn't have any notes. I left my notes in the fish room like a dingleberry. Let me think. Sometimes it takes a minute to get back to what I was thinking about. Yeah, I don't know. I totally lost my train of thought. It just went flying directly out my ear into a ravine. Am I embarrassed? A little bit. Sorry to lose my train of thought live on the internet TV, but what was I? Anyhow, I don't know. But either way, what was I talking about? Oh, the environmental connection. But most of us don't necessarily see the environmental connection of in our day-to-day lives just because of going going through life in a first world country, that $6 bag of potatoes, right? Because it takes that long to grow is subsidized by tax money, right? To stabilize that market. So it could be $6 to you instead of being $25 or whatever for it taking 3 months to grow. But as an average person, oh, that's what it was. It was Andrew Yang with $1,000 a month talking about that as related to, because the future, the way that things are working now, is that most of the corporations that are hiring and paying people are becoming more and more and more segmented income, right? Now, how does that make sense? It makes sense that most employees that are being hired now, 22, 25 years old, that kind of stuff, in the past, like let's say you got hired by GM in 1980, right? And you were 22 years old, you just got done with your bachelor's degree. They would be hiring you in a position with the idea that you would be a full-time employee for 40 years, which would be next year you'd be retiring in 2020, right? Then you'd move on into retirement. They'd have a pension for you. They would have been paying your health insurance. They would have been doing all of that kind of stuff. What a lot of those corporations have figured out is that if they could hire that person as a 1099, which if you know what a 1099 is, you're a contracted employee, right? So it'll be like, hey, we're going to hire this contractor to come in here. We're going to be like, oh, we're going to pay you $30 an hour to come in and do that contract work. But no, there's no benefits or anything because we're paying you $30 an hour, right? Now, the reason that is going to make a big difference to a lot of us, including myself, that over the next 20 years, most of our income is all going to come from these little tiny revenue streams, right? We talk about like affiliate links on this show quite a bit, like Aquarium Co-op is one of our affiliate sponsors that if you buy stuff from Aquarium Co-op through our links, we get a small commission off of it. You get a small commission from that, right? That's going to be more what it's going to look like for most people out there. Now, I think that having our hands, my hands, your hands, everybody's hands, in an additional revenue stream of running a small garden, running a little bit of a garden, maybe a micro farm, maybe something like that, will help offset some of the costs of things that are needed, like food. So, you know, Vicky and I have 10 chickens, which they provide us a lot of food. With eggs constantly. We constantly have a fridge full of eggs. So we always have a portion of a portion of protein at any point in time, because we always have eggs. Not to mention the chickens themselves, but that's a last ditch effort of like harvesting the chickens, which that does happen sometimes, and it's a little rough, and I understand that. But the eggs are, no one suffers the egg situation. So we always have a protein source all year round. They also help us compost and create fertilizer for some of the stuff that we're doing. At some point in time, now I don't know when this is going to be, and I don't want to, oversell it, right now. But at some point in time, our chicken coop will actually, the poop and everything will actually drain's not the right word, screen through. It'll go down into a fish holding pond that actually goes into a fish holding pond where fish can grow and plants can grow out of that pond also itself. So, we always have a source of protein. Then we always have, almost always have some kind of vegetable that we have grown. Now, in the off season here, right now, we end up going barren, other than the stuff that we've, canned and jarred and that kind of stuff, right? So, we always have some kind of food that we have grown or made or been a part of, right? And I think that it's important for more people to understand how easy it is to kind of set up this kind of stuff and also do it within a limited amount of space. So today's title of the video, which takes us about a half an hour apparently to get to, expectation versus reality. Now, my expectation would have been to already have all these projects in place, done, and running by now. That is not the case. I'm not blaming my daughter, and I'm not blaming anybody else. But the reasoning behind that is that over the last 2 years, now a little bit less than 2 years, so 20 months, something like that, has been definitely occupied by this little peanut right here. From pregnancy to birth to being an infant. She is going to be a year old in 3 weeks, something like that. 3.5 weeks, whatever. But I'm pretty excited to start kind of moving into a phase where I'm going to be able to build more and implement some of those things that are actually sized and scaled down so that even people living in apartments and stuff like that would be able to implement something like that. Now, the biggest issue is almost always people having to farm or grow some kind of protein, right? Like, it's brutal on most people to, eat their pets, basically, when you get down to it. Like, you can't raise a whole bunch of guinea pigs in the U.S. and then eat them and not have somebody freak out, right? Whereas in South America, you go down there, there's guinea pigs all the time. On the street food is all guinea pigs. They run those little rascals, and they eat a lot of them. So I'm not to say one is correct or one is incorrect, but I think that fish is an avenue that most people could go down and not be so brutally affected by. Growing chickens and eating chickens and stuff like that is a viable option, not necessarily for apartment type dwelling people, but also I think that it would be an additional help or aid or motivation, that because one thing that I have noticed is that most apartment dwelling type people that get into the agriculture and stuff like that, they actually do start to think like, wait a minute, maybe I can move to an area that's less populated and start doing some of these projects on a bigger scale in an area that, you know, maybe you're not like in the downtown region, right? So I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts of the day. It's Monday. It's weird. Let's get to some questions and stuff and see what's happening. We got a super chat here from the Fish Tank Barn, sitting at the Travel Plaza eating dinner in Ohio on the way home from the aquatic experience. Thanks for entertainment on the drive home. Well, thanks for the super chat. The Fish Tank Barn is Mike, whose name I always say wrong. So it's Mike Howe or Howie. I don't know. I always say it wrong. So, hey, maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's not. And we also got a $5 super chat from Jim Smith for the Goldfinch Food Fund, which if you guys know, if you guys are on the Discord, which let me pop over to the Discord. Here we go. So actually screen captured. Well, it's not screen captured. It's actually live right now. So people can start posting up on here onto the Discord chat. And people are wondering like how you get access to the Discord chat. You either become a member on YouTube, which there's a membership button. You hit the join button down below and you can become a member, or and you can find the link in the community tab. I normally post it up there every little whatchamacallit, and you know, every month or two or something like that, I post it up there so that you guys can grab it, or you head over to the Patreon. You know, help that the Patreon's how we crowdsource this program, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. I do these live shows like right now. We also do edited content and stuff like that. We're over 1,000 videos now, so hopefully we'll get more and more coming out to you guys. But it's thanks to people like on the Patreon that make it even possible to show up here and be able to be here like on a day like today. I know some people on Friday. That's the link. I just posted it in the live chat down there, and it's also tagged underneath every video, so you can grab that at any time, anytime you like. And then you could always come over onto the Patreon and or onto the Discord chat, which is over here in the window, via the Patreon or becoming a member on YouTube. Boom, there we go. So maybe there's something here that that you're like, oh man, I want to promote this, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to talk to Joel at any time, I want to be able to ask him a question and not just be like in the comments on YouTube and that kind of stuff. This is a great place to do it because it, you know, it sends messages to my phone and stuff like that. As you guys can see, Alyssa's in here, asked, I've never hatched BBS, baby brine shrimp, before, but I'm going to need to do so very soon for my betas. I get how to use the hatchery and all, and I also get that I should not just dump the salt water with the shrimp into the tank, but also the packet, I think, will make too many for one of my babies. Question: how does one get baby brine shrimp from the salty water, a net of some kind, and how long are they babies? Like, can I pull from a hatchery for a few days or what? Yes, you can. So you don't have to use the whole packet, but I would recommend using the whole packet. I've tried using less than the whole packet, and it never really worked out perfectly for me. But yes, it should last. I think, you know, I used to just, when I would hatch baby brine shrimp, I would run through them super fast. So, but I would normally only have them for about a week, and then most of them would be depleted by then. But a small shrimp net, which I wonder if let me see if I can find a link for you guys. As you guys know, if you go to Amazon through our Amazon links, yes, that's an affiliate too. So, let me see if I can't find one here real quick. That is one that I like, because this may take just a second to find a link. And yeah, if you guys go to Amazon, you can buy whatever you want over there. As long as you go through our link, it takes you to Amazon. Then you just buy whatever you want, and then yeah, go crazy. So that's the right netting, but the wrong handle. Let's Oh, that one's not good. That one's not good either. That one gets rusty, so we don't want that one. That one has the wrong net on it. That's the right handle, but the wrong net. Where's the correct net? Nope, that's the wrong net. Let's see. No. Boop, 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 boop. I do know there's some people out there that are utilizing a... Now, this one's like similar to the one, but it's like $20, so that's ridiculous. Ain't nobody wants no $20 shrimp net. That's bonkers. That one is the right handle, but it's the wrong net on it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, found it. Haha. There's that one. When did I order this one? Oh, I have ordered this one before. But the current shrimp net I'm using, I got from Chris Lukup in Germany. And he hand delivered it to me. But he got it from Singapore, I think. And I've never seen it online for sale. But that's the one that I know on Amazon is actually a good little shrimp net that won't completely fall apart. Excuse me. Still coughing, still dying. Oh, I see the Aquarium Co-op has shown up eating cheese curds at the airport, watching YouTube get the closed captions wrong. It's pretty good. Coombs Aquatics, this right. I think I'm going to just do a Dutch scape style. Let's go around. Yeah, I like a Dutch scape if you have time to maintain it. It's definitely one of those scapes that you have to stick with it. You can't just be like, "Oh, let me relax and let these stems grow." NC says also interested in the BBS question. Finally got some fry buzzing around. Yeah, I mean, the baby brine shrimp are super easy to hatch, and they'll basically just be alive as long as you're aerating them pretty well and just keep going. I know you can add and add and add, but I normally would just clean it out. I would normally just clean it out and restart again when I was hatching them. Whether that's right or wrong, that's what I was doing. So, you know, and that worked out fine for me. Just stopped anything from getting funky, which is kind of the point. So let's see. We got Glenn Tooksure. I think I got it right on the first time. Says, I've told several of you that I live in an area that is not big on aquariums. I found a guy selling Rotella rotundifolia trimmings for $1 for a 6-inch stem. It's about a half-hour drive farther than where I am working tomorrow. Is it something I should do, or am I setting myself up for another failure, although I am learning a lot and slowly winning? These self-inflicted failures have to stop. Well... $1 a stem seems kind of high, but also, you know, it's an aquaculture product, and I'm sure the guy probably just said it at, or gal, maybe it's gal, I don't know. Oh no, it says found a guy, so that's why. Okay, all right. I want to be inclusive. Don't want to be talking about like maybe it's just a dude that's selling it, but it does say a guy right there, so that's why it was in my head. All right. Gotta remember to be just, you know, relatively inclusive at times. Try to catch myself, you guys. What the heck was that? Oh, lens cap fell over. Lens cap falling over, brought to you by Tamron. That lens is for sale, and I haven't sold it yet. That's terrible of me. Speaking of things that are for sale. Rotella rotundifolia is actually a pretty easy plant to grow in my experience. I have not had a lot of trouble propagating it and getting it to grow. I haven't found that it really needs super specific water parameters or anything like that. So, Glenn, I would say go for it if it's something that you're looking for. If it's the plant that you're looking for, I would go for it. I don't feel like $1 a stem is too far off. I bet it's just somebody that just picked like, hey, $1 a stem, what's up? So I'd probably just go like, go and get 10 stems or whatever. And I always buy big anyhow. So maybe I'd buy 20. I don't know. Maybe I'd just be like, how much you got? I'll give you $15 for the whole bunch or something. But yeah, rotundifolia is actually pretty easy to grow in my experience. I haven't had, like I said, I haven't had anything that's like, wow, it really needs this water or anything. But as you guys know, I use myself some Easy Green and that kind of stuff. And I think Glenn is in Canada, if I think correctly. And I was listening to Kobe from Aquarium Co-op live stream while I was working last week. And I did hear him say something about getting closer to being able to send out Easy Green into Canada. I did hear about that. I don't know what exactly he was saying, so I'm not going to like put words in his mouth or anything like that. But if I was a Canadian, I'd be keeping my eyes out because that's going to come most likely available fairly soon. Alvin Alejo with a $5 super chat says, just moved my porcupine puffer to my main tank. Hopefully he behaves so he can stay there. I do want to get him his own 125 gallon. Personally, I'd skip the 125 gallon. I'd go for a 120 gallon. I like the footprint better. But if you happen to like the footprint better and the price of a 125 versus an acrylic tank, I could see where you're coming from if that was the case. Ollie H says, my diamond hole saws have turned up today. Time to drill my first tank and join the Sumpin' Gang. What size pipe would you plumb a 30-gallon with? I typically, if I'm plumbing something, I go with 1 inch. It's pretty much the middle ground of price and availability for parts and all that kind of stuff. 1 inch it's easy to work with. It's easy to cut. Fittings and stuff like that are pretty cheap, so I normally go with the 1 inch. Alana Suki says, we ask important questions on Discord like, do pumpkins have a smell? Yes, they do. Let's see. Kira Doom says he has paperwork to still do. Oh, yeah, they still have paperwork to do, but I do know he was saying that they're getting close. So, yeah, just a heads up. If I was up in Canada, I'd be like, oh man, I'm gonna get me some fertilizer as soon as that comes out, because I don't know how that's gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to just? I hope it doesn't just sell out super fast, right? And then there'll be a lot of people that are like, oh man, I couldn't get any. It's all sold out. Darren is asking for the Discord chat link. I forgot to add it to favorites. It is on the Patreon. If you go to Patreon, you can that is definitely on there. I don't post it into chat because then it would be a public link. So yes, it is on, and no one else can make a link for it other than a moderator or myself. So hold on, just got a whole bunch of emails about the fact that I'm live right now. Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful, YouTube. Out of all the things that they want to do, that is apparently the thing that they're all about right now, is sending out emails that I'm currently live. All right. Got it. Did I get all the super chats and all the questions we got to pop out? Let's see. Which to this day, I can't believe is actually a thing. Happy Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving. Yes, apparently today is Canadian Thanksgiving, and which is Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, depending on where you're at in the U.S. And I think realistically, there are a lot of people out there getting down on Columbus today, and I'm gonna be, who covered that? Let me see. One of my favorite creators covered that, I think. Knowing Better. Yeah, Knowing Better, Christopher Columbus. I thought he did one. YouTube. What? All right, let me see if I can't just get to regular old YouTube. Let me see if I can't go to... Let's see. Columbus. I thought he did one on Christopher Columbus. Oh, yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay. How do I share it from not being inside it? Okay. Copy. Where's my chat? My chat's over here. Where's my chat window? Okay, so what I looked up is Knowing Better Columbus. That's one of my favorite YouTube creators, Knowing Better. He did a pretty comprehensive, about a half-an-hour video on Christopher Columbus, which I don't think Christopher Columbus was necessarily a good guy. I don't necessarily think he was a bad guy. I think he was just a nightmare back then, honestly. I think realistically, it was just a nightmare back then. As Dennis and I were talking in on Patreon or in the Discord today, we were actually talking about a little bit about Columbus, and a big part of it was is people think that they brought the sickness like on purpose, and you know, people back then didn't they didn't know them being around other people was going to make them sick. You know, like. They didn't know that was going on. They didn't know what it was that made them sick. They all like thought it was spooky ghosts or some kind of nonsense. So I just think a lot of the people back then were just crazy and a mess and that kind of stuff. And so people like, they're like Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm like, cool. Christopher Columbus Day. I'm like, that seems dumb, but he is like a historical character. So, okay. My overall point has always been, why do we have this weird holiday, which a bunch of people like have the day off and stuff? You don't have to go to work, but the banks are closed, but everybody else has to go to work, right? And we don't have a voting holiday in the U.S. That's the thing to me that is like, McFly, hello, right? We have a day we're going to celebrate whatever. There's not even really like American history. It's just history. Like, we're going to celebrate the fact that history exists, and we're not going to have a day, a national day to vote. Why don't we have a national voting day? And then people tell me online, they'll scream at me about how that's un-American. I'm not patriotic and I don't support the troops. And I'll be like, all right, man, I don't know what you're talking about. There's a lot of crazy people out here on the internets. Bro. Cray. My whole point hasn't had anything to do with the Democrats or the Republicans or the liberals or the conservatives or the LGBT or the non-LGBT, any of those groups that everybody feels like they're obligated to get into. My point has been, why aren't we democratically voting on the things that are going on in this country? Why are we electing some, for a lack of a better term, dipshit to go take a bunch of money and then push laws through while no one's paying attention? I forget how many things have been federally. There's been like 2,000 things pushed through federally this year. And like nobody even knows what they are until we find out later. It's like, oh, we're here to steal money. And here's all the paperwork we pushed through to steal it. And we're like, don't do that. No. But we don't vote for any of this stuff. We just vote for somebody to go vote for us. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Kira Doom says, how often should root tabs be placed in a tank? Now, root tabs are almost always kind of confusing for most people. And here's why. You put a lot of fertilizer down into the root, you know, the root ball, right, of a plant underneath into the substrate. You don't really know if it's there, if it's gone, any of that kind of stuff, right? We don't, you don't really know. You're like, I don't know, I put root tabs down there. Is it still there? Is it gone? It's hard to test a water column to kind of really know what's going on, which is why I've been a big advocate for a long time of, dosing the water column. That's why I recommend Easy Green to people. Yes, they are an affiliate sponsor, but I do believe in the product. I wouldn't tell you about it if I didn't. Or if I was to tell you about it, I'd be like, it's terrible. Don't use that. Which, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is good to dose the water column. It's one of the reasons that I remind people that they're like, why do you always recommend people to use good substrate? It costs money. And I'm like, yeah, so does potting soil and sand and gravel cap and all that kind of stuff. That all costs money too. And it's almost always the big issue with adding fertilizers to the substrate that you don't really have any way to measure it and kind of know what's going on. But if you're talking about root tabs for something like a big sword plant or something like that, it's really going to depend on the size. Now, if you have something that's like a big, like a small beach ball, just bigger than a basketball plant like that, I find about 2 of the, like I've never used Aquarium Co-op's tabs, but I've used like CChem root tabs and stuff like that. I would normally add 2 for like that size of a plant, like once every month or 2. And that kind of stuff I always write down on my big whiteboard in my fish room, just so I can remember, like, oh yeah, I put some root tabs in there 7 weeks ago. That's kind of been a long time. Let me test the water column, see what's going on. If I'm not noticing any kind of like elevated numbers, right, then I'd be like, I'll probably throw a couple in there again. But it does become quite confusing that way because there's not a real way to test. There's not really knowing exactly what's going on. To be like, has it used it all up? Do I dig up the substrate and see if it's still down there? Or, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot to really go off of. And that's the same thing with, if you want to do an air quote dirted tank, aka the Wallstad method. If you want to do the Wallstad method, buy her book. I don't have anything to do with her book. I don't have anything to do with her. As a matter of fact, I've gotten in arguments with her online a few times. Although I think she's a nice enough person, I think she just doesn't come across well typing out comments to people. But her book is, reads like a little science book. It might take you a little while to digest it, but it's not that long, so it's not like a giant thick book. It's just it's kind of like a elaborate pamphlet. I think it's like 80 pages long or something like that. So it is kind of dry, kind of sciencey or whatever, but go that route if that's what you want to do, because there's a bunch of things that you don't want to do in a dirted aquarium, like putting in a ton of lights and all this other stuff. You want to keep that thing super simple, and that's basically the good way to do it. And a good example is that somebody that's like a year in on a dirted aquarium will gas their fish, right, with CO2, which I find to be impossible in my aquariums. But one of the big things is that in an older aquarium like that, CO2 is being produced by the anoxic bacteria breaking things down in the substrate because of that lack of air exchange, right? So there's like not only the CO2 is the person adding, but there's also all this extra CO2 that's coming from the breakdown of all of those organics and everything, which has a tendency to escape my mind, and it's not something I normally talk about because I don't do dirted aquariums. I don't recommend people to do a dirted aquarium. I know that Dustin from Dustin's Fish Tanks is probably the guy who really sort of brought that to the internet's face, and I've met Dustin. He's a nice guy. I don't have any beef with him or anything like that. But I have definitely been an opponent of recommending people to start out with a dirted aquarium because I feel like a dirted aquarium is something that people should do 5 years in, 3 years in, to having some success, and then being like, oh, let me try that experiment out. Let me try doing that so that I kind of know what to expect, how to make, how to adjust rapidly, be able to like, oh, I've got to do a water change like every day for what, 3 weeks? Oh, wow, that's a lot. Okay. I know what to expect with that. Somebody that's brand new coming into the hobby, and you're telling them like, oh, this is the magic secret of how to do an aquarium. It's like, why doesn't Takahashi Amano do his tanks that way? If that's a secret, right? Because normally secrets like, here's the magic special ingredients that could be used, right? Not just like something that was out back from Home Depot, on the clearance rack, right? You'd be like, oh, the special magic secret stuff comes from a magic secret mountain in Japan somewhere, and it has to be hand washed by, I don't know, students. I guess that's kind of a good way to put it. One of the weird things is you go to see almost 95% of professional scapes out there are using some kind of actually formulated aquatic soil that has a really high cation exchange capacity, because we have to understand that the positive charged ions and the negative charged ions that are going on in that environment, that's where the nutrients from the water column are going to be grabbed onto by the substrate if the substrate has the ability to do it. Which, that's one of the reasons that, I have sustained success with my aquariums over a really long period of time. And that's because, I use Fluval Stratum. I use EcoComplete. I use ADA sometimes if I can find it and it's not too super expensive. I think next time I drive down to Oregon, I'll probably buy a couple more bags. And stuff like that. I mean, there's a bunch of other substrates I use which are escaping my mind right now. Fluorite, that's one I use. I use them all for different reasons, different applications and stuff. But I just highly recommend anybody to do that because, if you were to add something like a root tab at some point in time, you could see some kind of result, see what's happening, kind of get an idea, and make sure that the things that are supposed to be going are going. Ooh, Darren sent me a message. Oh, I got a private message on. Got a private message over here on Patreon. I better respond to it. I also got a private message I got to respond to from Marco, who's going to be at the. He's going to be at. Well, that's Daryl. Where's Darren at? Oh, I think that's Darren's problem. I think he deleted himself off of the Discord. That might be his problem. All right. This is where we sidetrack the show because I can't remember how to do that quickly and effectively. I think it's up here. There it is. Paste. Fire. Engage. Send. There we go. Anyhow, so what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So we're talking about our plant systems and that kind of stuff and substrates and whatnot. Kira with a follow-up. What do you think of pothos as helping to filter the nitrate in a tank? Any plant that is growing emergent out of the water column is going to help uptake nitrite, and ammonia too. One of the big things that's missing from potting soil sand and gravel is ammonium, right, is normally missing from those three, which allow the uptake of all that. And, you know, it's one of those things. You start to get into some of the interesting things and the relationships of them to start figuring out exactly what is going on in your little ecosystem. You know, even in my 240-gallon aquarium, you know, most people go like, oh, 240 gallons is pretty big. You know, compared to the ecosystem of the earth, the things that are happening in the earth, the replenishment, the amount of light, you know, the amount of new water introduced, all that kind of stuff is wildly more. It's a much bigger system than just my 240-gallon aquarium. My 240-gallon aquarium is tiny in compared to the environment outside, you know. So even in that system, you know, I can make changes and it changes the whole entire ecosystem within that aquarium, and then I do have to be cognizant of what I'm doing. So I don't want big rapid swings of big rapid changes and crazy stuff going on in there. So you know, that's another reason why I don't use you know, I don't use like the potting soil and that kind of stuff, and I also don't know what's in those potting soil. You know, the bigger brand names have a responsibility and generally insure themselves to make sure that whatever it is that they're making for you is what they say it's going to be. You know, even Seachem with their products, right? They're a big company, big giant company. If they sold you substrate that had banana peels in it, you know, you could be like, hey, you guys, you sold me substrate with banana peels in it. This is crazy. But a company that sells potting soil would be like, uh-huh. Yeah, it's got compost in it. It's right here in the back, down here at the label down here. Guess it wasn't composted as much as we normally have it composted, but what are you complaining about? And then you'd be like, well, I put it in my fish tank. And they'd be like, I don't know, man. We don't care. You put it in the wrong place. So good luck, I guess. So that's also something to take into consideration with that kind of stuff. And, you know, like it's some things to think about or some things to not think about. Sandy Cheeks says I like that. Sandy Cheeks. It's pretty good. The popular vote don't count. That's why you don't have the day off. Yeah, that's a integral problem with the United States system here, that we don't have a national voting day and we don't vote on any of this stuff. We just vote for essentially a bunch of little kings and queens to go take care of us, for us, or whatever. Yeah, it's nonsense. And Jeanette says, Robert the Butcher from Chicago. I thought Casimir Pulaski Day was just Chicago. Oh, that's like the mean streets. Jeff Rose Fish Keeping just showed up. What's up, my guy? Hope your beard's doing good. Hope your kids are doing good. Hope your dog's doing good. Nope. I'm going to tell you guys, if you guys don't know who Jeff Rose is, he does some live streams. I like him, so you better check him out. Otherwise, what's the whole point, right? If we don't check out Jeff Rose Fish Keeping, what's the point? What is it? Right? Then we end up feeling like we're completely pointless, and then we get sad. Elflower 1 stars is asking, is your daughter walking as of yet? Olivia walks. Olivia runs. Olivia goes all over the place. She, yeah. Yep. It has been months now that she has been trying to walk since. So when she was an infant, she did not even like to lay down. She didn't like to sit on your lap. She didn't like to lay down or cuddle. She liked to stand up. She would like, stand me up. So you'd have to pick her up, let her stretch her legs up, and she'd be standing there going, I'm a month and a half. Ah! You know, she'd want to stand up. And She was highly motivated to do that. She crawled for a little bit, but she was not happy with crawling. She immediately made a beeline. She learned how to walk as fast as she could. She was just like, all right, I'm going to fall down until I can walk, because crawling is for the birds. So, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird. But yes, she's figured out how to run now over the last week and a half. So she is going fast, and I get the vibe that she's going to just keep going faster and faster and faster. And I'm probably going to have heart attacks and heart attacks. And, you know. Lawrence Keebler says, which election day gets a holiday? My school board tomorrow? Oh, yeah, I don't know. There's no election day holiday. We don't have one, and I think it's stupid. It's 2019, and we don't even have a day for doing elections, right? Let's see. Where is my video of the day? I think video of the day is over here, which means speaking of the baby, I got to move her back over there so we can take a look at today's video. Is today's video working? Come on now. Come on, little buddy. Let's go video. There we go. For whatever reason, that's not working as well as it used to. These days, it's doing its own weird thing. Let's go. Why is it not playing? Play. Play from the start and just play, right? Let's make it big. How do we make it full screen? How do we make it full screen? How do we make it full screen? Why does it stop right there? We don't want no sound. Right. How's that working? Is that working? Why does it keep stopping? Why would I have this like fully rendered out little video that should work, and then it just, there we go. It just stops right there. Why would it do that? Ooh, is it this add to queue points down here? What is this? Huh. I don't know what that is. Seems to be working now. Oh, now it stopped. Now it stopped again. This is so weird. I don't understand why. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to create a whole new scene. Don't freak out. It's just going to be a second. I'm going to open up a new scene and I'm going to create it. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's put me here. Add source. Not screen. We want... Where's my sound? I need my sound. Audio. There's our audio. Whoa. 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 It's playing back. I can hear me. Whoa. How weird is that? Why is it monitoring? Dee-dee. Dee-dee. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. I wonder if it's still working. I don't know. Let me add source. Media file. Right there. Open. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That seems to be working. Oh, and it stopped. Look at that. It just stopped. Why is that happening? All right, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to here then. All right, well, I don't know. I tried. Y'all, I don't know why this doesn't work now. I don't know why this doesn't work now. But it's starting to piss me off, to be honest with you guys. Like, I figure, oh, you know, maybe the thing's just going to mess up for a little while, and it just happens to be a thing that's going on. But this just keeps happening, and I don't know why. And, you know, hey, XSplit sucks, and I've always said XSplit sucks, and it still does suck. And I don't know why this doesn't work correctly. But I'll try some things next time I edit the video. Yeah. So, how do we go? What happened? Effects, none. Layout, none. Color, nothing. I'm not doing anything weird. Maybe I'll turn remember playback position off? I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But anyhow, we were definitely making a little bit of headway today in the 150 and cleaning some stuff out. I don't understand. I'm going to throw this computer into the sun. Why is this not playing? Why do I render a video out? What the? Does it, like, not play from over here? Hold on. Let me see if it plays from here. Let's see if it just plays or what. Okay, it does do something weird in the player. I mean, how is this possible? Huh. Yeah, it's doing weird stuff in here, too. Huh. Okay, well, we'll just see what the video does. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I wish it was better, but it's my life. I've got a case of the Mondays, that's for sure. But anyhow, let's get back to what we were talking about, which is the Ludwigia, which I was messing around with today. And it has to do with, definitely has to do with, what's the word I'm looking for here? The expectation versus reality, right? Ludwigia is a perfect, and this is the Ludwigia repens, if anybody is wondering, that's been watching The Sun, or watching the Sun, the show. Oh, sorry, I was reading Jeff Rose's comment at the same time while trying to talk. And so the deal is that we have an expectation that a plant's just going to grow the way that we want it to grow. And the unfortunate thing is that almost is never reality, right? We do have to do a lot of maintenance, messing around with the plants and stuff like that, and trying to get things to work out the way that we want them to work out. And you just really have to put some effort into it to really get things to get to a point where you want them to be. And this Ludwigia repens is a perfect example of that, because it is almost always an annoying plant, just because it is annoying, and it's just always an ongoing annoying plant, which is a pain. And one of the reasons that it can be so annoying is it grows up tall and long, and then you trim it, and it sprouts out multiple from where you were at, where you trim it, right? So it sends out these side shoots right from where you trim it, and then you go like, oh, I'm going to do more of that. And then it starts growing all super wonky when you start doing more of that, because it starts making these wacky 90-degree angles and growing off in weird, wacky directions. So part of the advice that I normally give the viewing audience here, the listening audience, the viewing audience, the listening audience, who are you? is to trim the tops off and pull the bottom of the plant that has the roots and everything out, allow those to sprout somewhere else so you could trim the tops from those sprouts off and replant the tops of the plant so it will continue to grow the way that you want it to grow instead of just being kind of bland and green. Allow it to grow up Ludwigia repens style. It turns this nice yellow, orange, and then eventually some deep red speckles and stuff like that start coming into it if you are doing it that way. Whereas it'll grow this bright green color if you just keep trimming it and allow those to resprout and stay where it's at. Let's see. Alyssa says crawling is for the birds. It's the quote of the day. So in giving that advice, do I follow that advice? 75% of the time. You know what I'm saying? Let me make me small. I want to make this full screen. I'm going to make this full screen and see if you guys can get a good eye on it. Let me find me. I am the Logitech. There we go. Let's move this up. We have to change the scene here while we're doing the show live. There we go. Make me all super small down here in the corner. Incredibly micro-sized in the corner. Let me go up to the top corner because that's the boring part. Oh no, this is the side of the tank over here on the left, so I'll go over here. Let me get my lovely daughter and move her to in front of the video. There we go. Oop. And of course it resized the one thing that I'm not highlighted on. And let's make her like wicked small and put her right down here. There we go. Anyhow, so 80% of the time I take my own advice. I don't always take my own advice, and that can literally be explained because of laziness or just like not motivated, or maybe this is just the easier way if I just trim them back. They'll still grow, blah, which probably is almost ultimately always laziness instead of anything else, right? It's almost always laziness. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. You know, barring that laziness, like if I get in a spot where I'm feeling super lazy, Ludwigia is one of those plants that will actually allow me to kind of be a little bit lazy, and you guys too. You know, it's one that you can trim and get away with. But like I said, you get to the second time it starts trimming, it starts pulling all these weird 90-degree angles, growing, and just not doing what you want it to do. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, I was actually talking about a Dutch aquarium. A Dutch aquarium is essentially going to focus on clumping or grouping. Clumping is kind of sounds like a negative. Sounds like a negative if I say clumping, but grouping groups of different stem plants in an aquarium to create depth. So short, medium height, tall height from front to back, and then grouping them so that you essentially don't have the exact same textures and colors right next to each other. When it's accomplished, it's beautiful. I think it's fantastic. You know, but the Ludwigia is not going to do that where it actually is just growing a beautiful stem. It, like I said, it's going to start clumping up, growing all in these weird directions and stuff, and having all sorts of problems. and it's not going to necessarily do that. But it is a plant that will allow you to kind of be lazy for a little while, which is kind of what I was doing with the left-hand side of this tank. As you can see, I've got a ton of booses growing over there, and just kind of letting them do their thing over here in the sort of shaded area. I got the Fluval 3.0, which I got from Aquarium Co-op. That part was actually a sponsored part from Aquarium Co-op to get those lights. So I don't know how long that sponsorship counts for. Is that this video? I don't think so, because we did a bunch of sponsored videos about those, and yeah, but I do love these lights even a year and a half later. Been using them, love them. They're holding up fantastically. They're working perfectly. No complaints whatsoever. But this is a 5 foot wide tank with a 4 foot light on it. So these side area over here isn't dark per se, but it is more shaded than the center of the tank, because there's a lot of light on the center of the tank, and it does work quite well to grow things like buces off to the side, Java fern, things like that don't want a ton of direct light on them. Otherwise, they get completely accumulated with all sorts of algae. They're just not good at repelling algae at all. They're just like, what? We'll let algae grow right on our face and be fine with it because we're a goofy plant. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so with Ludwigia, you got to kind of do what I'm doing here in the video if you really want it to look and be as beautiful as it could possibly be, and the kind of stuff that you see with pictures. You know, you see a beautiful picture on the Instagrams, you know, of some Ludwigia, and you're like, boy, howdy, I want some. And if you go about it by just trimming it like 3 or 4 inches off the substrate and retrimming it 3 or 4 inches off the substrate and retrimming it 3 inches off the substrate, it's just definitely going to be not as fruitful as it could be for you if you were taking the tops, pulling what's already rooted out and replanting the tops in the exact same spot. That's going to work out the best for you. Bentley's wondering if I've used the Pro Mode settings. To be 100% transparent, not really. Nope, I don't. I haven't messed with that yet. I'm sure I will. Sort of just something in the back pocket. I've been building stuff in the fish room and shooting all sorts of weird video stuff that, to be honest with you guys, I don't even know if it'll ever come out. Maybe someday. I don't know. I keep feeling like a video is going to come out and then it doesn't. And I'm like, what? Paul Jones was asking earlier about red plants that are easy to grow, and I forgot to answer it without CO2 and stuff, but I do have a video on that, which I'm going to have to log out here and re-record one of the voiceover parts that I screwed up earlier. So, but other than that, Alternanthera renekii is the answer for that, or Scarlet Temple. Those are the two that I would easily recommend to anybody out there, and you'll be fine with no CO2. Avery Hill, after months in the hobby of using EcoComplete with high lights, heavy ferts, and CO2 with absolutely no success with plant growth, I switched to plain gravel, and my plants are going gangbusters. Strange. Well, you probably changed something. I mean, you know, chances are you probably changed something within the tank, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't claim that EcoComplete, heavy ferts, CO2, and lights would work on every water situation, but 99%. So maybe you have the 1% of weirdness. My guess would be that you have like super hard water, and in conjunction, you're probably utilizing a lot of soft water plants. That would be my guess if I had to. Yeah. Late trying to fix my daughter's Jetta. Phil. Oh, Phil, you late? Yeah, fixing a Jetta will make anybody late. Volkswagen makes incredibly wonky cars to mess with. I already answered all that stuff. All right, I think we're kind of caught up on the chat. Chad Krotz says, I can't figure out what time the show is on anymore. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's 3 o'clock Monday and Friday, except I do an early show sometimes on Friday, and sometimes I stream at other times. But, I mean, turn on your notifications. Make sure that your phone has a set that allows a notification to come to your phone. I noticed that a lot of people are like, I don't get notifications. And within the settings of your phone or your device, you have to allow it to actually send you a notification if you actually want one. So yeah, I don't know. One thing I do know is that the Discord is pretty helpful for being able to send out a notification if a video or a live stream is about to go up. So maybe the Discord is something that would work better for people or not. I don't know. I have noticed that there are some people like in the Discord that I would have expected to be chatting that don't. So I don't know. But I don't know. Annalise says, what are your feelings on acrylic versus glass aquariums, and are you familiar with AquaClear's Uniquariums? An aquarium with a sump built into the back. Yeah, I've seen a lot of all-in-one built in the back aquariums. I've owned a bunch of them. They're terrible. I mean, not to say that they're terrible, but they just don't. I would just say it's a no-go. And what are my feelings on acrylic aquariums? I have all acrylic aquariums, so that probably explains it. I mean, I think small nano tanks and stuff like that in glass, like low iron and stuff like that, are fantastic and fabulous. And at some point in time, I'll probably do some more of those again. At some point, I don't know when that'll be, but at some point I will probably do that again. Some nano tanks, glass, yes. Any tank over 40 gallons in glass, though, I mean, I guess you could do a 55 or a 75, but I mean, just anything over that 75 gallon mark, I guess. I mean, even 75s don't look that good in glass. I mean, just big aquariums should be acrylic, I guess. Let's see. Philip Given says, what are your thoughts on a lighting siesta? Lighting siestas are useful if you are trying to pump a lot of light into an aquarium. It can be helpful, but it can also be detrimental sometimes. But if you're trying to like put a ton of light in there and you want to do like 3 hours with like just bright light, and then be off for like 3 hours and then back on for like 3 hours, I'd be game for that, and it does work. But I feel like the benefit, I think the benefit of having a balanced tank and just kind of setting your lights to what they need to be intensity wise, and the nutrients in the water column and that kind of stuff are correct, I think you'll have a lot more success. So yeah. Annalise says, I'm swapping my fish room to all acrylic. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the small tanks are pretty cost effective to go small tanks with glass. I think anything that's like a nice rimless low iron tank that's 30 gallons or below, there's really no reason to do that in acrylic, personally. But anything that's bigger than 30 gallons, in my opinion, I would just get an acrylic tank. Because even like a 50-gallon acrylic tank still is a pretty cool tank, So that's, and they last forever. They're easy to move around. They're way easier to move around than a big old glass tank. But the small stuff, I would just get low iron. Pugga Maximus is wondering, the Flora Max substrate any good? And honestly, I'm going to Google search that because I got to remember which one that one is. Oh, Carib Seas. Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's a reasonable substrate. I've had kind of middling success with the Carib Sea substrate. So I just kind of put it in par with EcoComplete. It's right around there. It's not really doing more or less than EcoComplete. So I would say with those kind of broken up volcanic type substrates, I would just typically find the one that's the cheapest and the most volume for price is what's really going to be important. So that's a big deal. What do we got? What do we got? All right. So we got our little quick fire here at the end. Ollie H fixing other people's Volkswagen pays for my tank addiction. Ah, that's a good thing. I know Ollie is a Patreon, so hey, thank you. We didn't get any patronizers during the show. Oh, sad Monday. Oh, but the thing we got to check. Last time I checked this, it got depressing. But let's see. How many members do we have? Oh, it went down again, guys. We're down to 80 now. To be honest with you, I was pushing to try and get the memberships to go over 100. And that, as for us, as a peoples here on the internet, has proven to be basically impossible. And I don't know why. It just seems like we hover right around the 80 mark. And I don't know why. I don't know what that's about. But it's it's always linked below all the videos. There's the link right there. If you feel like joining, cool. We're 20 short of getting to 100. Full disclosure. We're 20 short. Last week we were 19 short. And then now we're 20 short. Sad. Sad pants. Which is okay, though. Because I appreciate you guys. And it's all good. I have to cough a whole bunch. So I am going to mute the mic for a second and then come back. Love the ones you're with. Love the ones you're with. All right. Yeah. Oh, the coughing is just killing me. And I knew I was going to have to drop some F-bombs for the coughing, so sorry about that. Eric Hernandez says, tell us what you think the next big thing might be. I don't know. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I got a bunch of projects in the pipe. That is at the beginning of the show. We talked about that kind of stuff. I got some projects coming. And I'm pretty excited. Vivarium is coming up. That's going to be pretty cool. Hopefully that's going to have a whole bunch of videos and content and stuff and special guests, special interviews, moving around, clicking the zoom in, zoom out button. You know what I'm saying? So got a lot of things coming down the pipe, and it's been a pretty fun Monday. So hopefully everybody hits the like button and that kind of stuff. And I'm going to catch you guys on Friday because I got a week full of work here coming up, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Now, we have to figure out how to stop the stream in a reasonable way, which I think I got it right last week, but I can't remember how to do it. How did I do it last week? Let's think here. Is it this thing? I think it's this thing. I think I turned this off.